I'm using my headphones, so hopefully the audio is not bad. The quality's kind of awful, but whatever. Today, I don't know, I haven't talked in a minute. I think I'm just gonna talk about my experience having and knowing with depression and stuff, just dealing with that, I guess. I feel like that's an important topic that could help people and something I need to verbalize for myself to kind of work through. I don't really know where to start with that. It's definitely, I don't really know, it's a difficult topic to start on, but there's for me, I don't know how it really started, honestly. I started, actually I think I do. My dad, he went to go work away from home, so he was working remote somewhere 4 hours away, so he didn't come by that often. And this is in 8th grade when I was still finally actually thinking about stuff. And so I was in 8th grade, and it was only my mom there. And I've spoken before how my mom is more emotional and less less rooted in facts, I guess would be a way to say that. Okay, this looks better. But really, there's a fucking car. Sorry. But there's really nothing about that. My dad left, so I was only with my mom, and I didn't have a male role model. My dad's they're still married, but so I think that was kind of the issue. And then for me, I was starting to get into relationships and talking to girls and a relationship connotation as opposed to just friends. So there's cars all around me. It's whatever. But I had to learn to kind of go through that period, because I'm going through puberty, whatever, without a male figure at the start. And then whenever he came back, he only did that for a year. And whenever he came back from that, he I just never really reconnected, I guess. I mean, partly my fault. But so basically with that, I definitely developed some sort of attachment issue with that. Just, I don't really know why, but that's why when I started self-harm was I was talking to people in relationships, and I guess I was scared of people leaving, and I thought if I self-harm and people would feel like they needed to stay there for me, which was really not nice, not that good of a thing to do, obviously. But so that's really how my self-harm started, and then it started a transition to use as a coping for an inability to calm down my own thoughts, I guess. But I think I've had two major experiences with self-harm, and it's been it was this one night I was at my house, and I was still with my parents. I think it was in my sophomore year. Yeah, my sophomore. No. Beginning of my junior year. Yeah. Beginning of my junior or end of my sophomore year, whatever. But so I was dealing with that, and whatever. That couldn't have started because I think with the attachment issue I had, it was really, I was talking to this one girl, and we met online or something. I don't know, it was after pandemic when you were just chatting to whoever online, because you could see people, and we just kept talking. But no, it was a while after, I don't know what, but whatever. I don't know, it was a while. I think I just met her online or something on Snap or something. I don't even know. Anyways, we were talking, and I obviously liked her if I kept talking to her, and it started to get really I don't know, frustrating that I couldn't be with her in person, because I was obviously still young, I wasn't on my own decisions or anything. And I think part of the attachment where that played in with that, it was I needed to distance myself, because it was an unhealthy relationship, because it couldn't amount to anything, because I wasn't able to actually go see her in person or anything, which was, I know it sounds really weird, getting that over someone you never met, but I don't know, weird time in my life. But So with that, it was like we kind of like broke up. We weren't like dating or anything, obviously, but I was like, I need to stop talking to you, whatever, and that was like really difficult. And then that was my first major incident with self-harm. And all my self-harm really roots within relationships, which is, it's helped me like learn more, so it's helped me get to where I am. But there's gonna be a lot of yap. I'm sure you can tell already if you're watching. But so after that, that's when I started my therapy. I like started getting on medication and everything like that. That was at the that was the end of my sophomore year. That was the end of my sophomore year right there. That's what it was. And then I was going into that summer of May, and then that summer going into my junior year. And so I started therapy, started getting on meds. No, that was the beginning of my junior year, and it was after I had. No, that was the beginning of my junior year, and I wasn't on like therapy or anything like that, and I actually have no idea about my own timeline. Anyway, no, so that incident happened, like, and then I started therapy this summer after, and I started dating this girl. I started dating her. We were dating a couple months, and then I started going to therapy, and then I got on medication while I was dating her, while we were still like figuring out, because it was still a new relationship. So I started dating while I was figuring all that out and getting on meds and everything. So then I was still self-harming through this, just like not as like severe or anything. And so then I built the dependency on the girl I was in a relationship with, as well as the medication, as well as therapy. So I was super dependent, and I had no like dependency on myself. Everything was external. So if one of those things went away, it was really devastating. And then being with that, being on those medications, it really like messed up how my train of thought processed things and everything like that. So it caused me to break up and like get back together or whatever, and like all that was really like tough on our relationship as like an entity, and like on myself. Oh, this car just pulled up really close, whatever. But so that was all really difficult to like kind of cope with. And so that kind of like leads into my second big thing. It was when we like for real broke up. Like I knew nothing else would happen. Like there would be no getting back together or anything like that. And then that's the one night I went to the ER with that. And that's kind of like a broad summary of how I got where I am. I already had like a video about that, like my first one I posted, but it's whatever. And I just like I don't know. I don't have like a reason for telling that story, but it kind of just like, for me, it's like, it shows what it did in my own life, being able to see that. And it's like, the impact it can have on your life just because you have it really is what's really interesting to me. Like it changes how you think, it changes how you like move. It's really interesting. But going into actual depression itself, but like as a topic rather than my experience in it, it's definitely been really strange. Depression itself is really interesting to delve into. There's no real set thing for each person, because it is like a mental illness, and it's very difficult to come up with a solution for everyone, because everyone has different like brain chemicals. No one has the same balance in that, so no one medication will work for everyone. So that's why there's so many types. There's like SSRIs, NRAs, I don't know, like norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors and selective serotonin reuptake. There's like all types of medications that work for different people. But for me, what I think about depression is really just having to, it changes how you think. Like, as much as it doesn't seem that like a crazy of like a thing to deal with, it's really like debilitating, because it makes every small thing big, and then it makes every big thing bigger. So every thought you have is just exponentially more like important in your mind, even though it isn't. So then you get overwhelmed way easier, and when you get overwhelmed, you get more you get more stressed with all your with anything that you do. So it's really just difficult to live with, because then your stress plays a big role on how you develop and how your immune system works. I was listening to this one lecture, I forgot the professor's name, but he was talking about how like the more stress inducing your environment is, the more likely you are to succumb to illnesses like cancer. It's more like chronic illnesses, cancer, ALS, that type of thing, whenever you have more cortisol or all that. But so with that like being said, it's like depression might not have like a crazy, or might not seem like a crazy thing, like, oh, you're sad, but it's not just that. Like, there's obviously different types within each person. Like, each person is their own special case. Like, you can be depressed for seasonal, you can have seasonal depression when season is just because like something happened, and then whenever that time period rolls around, you get more depressed because of you remember that, and then that kind of like triggers that, everything like that. And I don't know, it's really, saying I don't know a lot, it's whatever, but having to deal with that, it's really hard for the people. And I think a lot of external parties don't understand it unless they've dealt with it. Because for me, I don't like where my seat is. For me, I don't like that even more. But like, there was this one day that I couldn't move. Like, I don't know what it was. This was like after I was on medication or whatever. Like, I couldn't move. Like, I was laying in my bed and I just couldn't move. I felt paralyzed, and my dad came in my room. He asked me like, try on a shirt. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak, I couldn't like anything, and he said I was just being really disrespectful. Obviously I didn't mean to do any of that. I genuinely couldn't move or react or anything like that. I was just stuck there, like I was frozen. And I don't know, like obviously like if I hadn't dealt with that, I would probably have the same thought that he did. But it's really hard to be able to explain to other people what you're dealing with. Like, as much as it is a mental illness, it also is physical, because your brain obviously affects all your movement. So whenever you have too much mental fatigue, it gets harder for you to do more tasks. Your motor skills get reduced. It's just really difficult to be able to live a normal life with depression. Really having to constantly deal with every thought. Like, one of my main struggles with having depression was just every thought felt extremely real, regardless of how like improbable it was. Even if it was like something that would never happen, if it was a thought I had, I held on to it and like took it down every scenario, like every rabbit hole I could with that thought. Not on purpose, my brain would just be like stuck doing that, and like every new thought, I would hold on to every single thought, and every thought I had would just kind of destroy any chance I had of being at peace or being calm or anything like that. And obviously from the outside, I definitely seemed calm or like nonchalant or whatever, but that's because I just didn't have the ability to express anything else. Like, I was just stuck within my own thoughts, and I couldn't be bothered to express myself in any other way because I was so caught up within my own thoughts. And it's not like I wanted to be stuck in my thoughts, because obviously that's not like a thing you want. You don't want to be stuck anywhere ever. Could have a place you like, but that's irrelevant. You wouldn't say stuck in that. You would say something other. But sorry, that's a different thing. But it's really difficult to live with. Like, I know I've said that so many times, but there's no way for you to know anything with it. Even if you have someone who's gone through the same thing as you, like similar experience, like they don't live your life, you don't live their life. So even something that worked for them wouldn't work for you, then it becomes more discouraging because you know it has worked for someone and it didn't work for you. And then you get more caught up in your head. You start thinking like, what's wrong with me? And then you just keep going down that path. And it gets really difficult to be okay with living. And then for me, that's where self-harm incorporated itself within that. It was really just, I knew none of the thoughts were real, but regardless how much I knew that nothing was real within my own thoughts, I still had, sorry, my sleep is really out of whack, I haven't said that in a while, but it's just really difficult to be able to separate yourself from your thoughts. Like your thoughts like absorb you, and you can't really escape it. Like even though you know it's not real, you just can't leave it alone. Like obviously you're not going to put thought into something that's not real. Like on a test, if you know something's not the answer, you're not going to overanalyze that. But like on like a multiple choice or whatever, like 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5, and if the answer choices were like 2, 3, 4, 5, you're not going to overly critically analyze the answer choice 5, even though you know it's not right. But that's how it is within your own thoughts. Like you know it's not real, but you still overanalyze it against your own will, and it just you stay stuck in that. And for me, self-harm is how I escape that, which obviously isn't healthy. And finding other outlets, I think, finding another way to break free from that, or just like recognize it earlier. One of my things, I don't know how universal this is or how isolated, I guess, because I don't think anything would be universal within this realm, but was I would wake up and I would know it's going to be a bad day with like thoughts and emotions, everything relating to that. I don't know how I would know, but I would wake up and I'd be like, yeah, today's going to be awful. It's going to be really filled with depression-like symptoms or anything like that. Like I would just wake up and I would know. And I used to just live with that and be like, okay, it's going to be awful. And I would just take it head on. And obviously that wasn't good. That was really awful. It was awful. But once I figured out what worked for me and like knowing that something would be awful and I knew I would have a way to get around it or to like fix it, it became really a lot more manageable. And like for me, that was finding a schedule, because as unreal as all your thoughts are, if you have a schedule written out, you're more prone to following a schedule than like a written schedule. Kind of like how my thing with verbalization, like how important I view verbalization, it can be equally said with writing. Like writing something out is more influential on your thoughts than just thinking it, because you have to, instead of just thinking about it, you have to put thought into writing, you have to put thought into getting the pen and paper or whatever. So that's a lot more influential. So finding a schedule, sticking to that schedule regardless of how you feel. Obviously it's not everything in this is just easier said than done, but finding a schedule, sticking to it, and writing stuff down is super helpful. And I think writing stuff down always really helpful. Finding an outlet, like for me, that was going to the gym, that was working out. It was just finding a physical way to distract myself from my thoughts. And eventually I got from distracting myself from my thoughts to being able to stop worrying about my thoughts and being able to kind of live a more normal life, I guess. I do think my life is not far from normal. I do think it's different than many others, however, but finding ways, I think scheduling, setting definite plans, like things you can't like not do because of your thoughts. Because once you like get in your own head and let your thoughts make your decisions for you instead of you making your decisions for you, that's when it gets really dangerous. That's when it becomes an issue for everyone in your life besides you. because then you become more unpredictable, because obviously your thoughts aren't real, so you could have unreal thoughts that are negative, like I don't know how, like being better off dead or something like that. I don't know how like relatable that is to anyone, but whatever. Just finding a way. I don't know, I'm kind of losing what I was trying to talk about here, but I think depression is really, it's an awful experience to live with, because no one understands unless they've been through it. And like, it's really hard, because my friend was talking about the girl he's dating her, but I'm not gonna like dox them or anything. I'm not gonna say what they are or anything like that, but he was telling me about like what she was dealing with, because she has depression to an extent as well. I don't know what extent, like I'm not gonna dig into that. Like I'll go with what he told me, but like she wasn't able to like do her like assignments or anything because she was stressed about like every small thing became a big issue because she couldn't stop thinking about it. And obviously no one's gonna understand if you're like, oh, I had so much stuff to do, I like couldn't do anything, and they're like, oh, what did you end up doing? And you're like, nothing, even though you had a lot to do. It's just really like no one's really gonna understand unless they've dealt with it. Really, like if someone were to tell me, like, and I hadn't like dealt with the depression or anything, it's like if someone were to tell me that they couldn't get anything done because they were thinking too much, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? If you're thinking, just put that thought into what you're supposed to be doing. But it doesn't just work like that. You don't have really control over that until you find a way to control it. Like you find a way to really set yourself up. And like a lot of handling depression is just being able to set yourself up for when an incident occurs. Everything has to be really proactive. You can't really just let depression do what it wants. You can't let it have its way with you. It's a weird way to put it, but you have to be really, I think the only reason I've made the progress I've made is just because how much I hated living with depression and having to deal with it. See how bright that car was? Holy shit. Sorry. Anyways, it's like there's no real, I just lost my train of thought because that car, depression having its way with you. Like you have to find ways to counteract it. Like scheduling was a big thing, physical activity is a big thing. Meditation is kind of, I know it's helpful for some people, but it's really difficult to try to ignore thoughts if your issue is thinking too much. But you just have to, I have another video about it. It's about how I stopped thinking or stopped overthinking. It was really helpful for me. If y'all wanted to go watch that, I'll have it pinned up here. No, I won't. I don't know how to do that. I did that same bit in my last video, whatever. But really finding ways to be proactive about your own situation, finding ways to just finding ways to take control of your life when you feel like you don't have control over it is really important. Because obviously whenever you feel like you're unable to do something, you're not able to do it. Whenever you feel like you're able to do something, you're more likely to be able to do it. So sorry, I'm like playing with these things in my cup holder. Stop it. But it's just like being proactive, writing things out, holding yourself accountable, knowing what to do when a situation happens. Like there's fire plans, there's like in school you have like fire drills. If a fire happens, like make those for yourself, make protection plans for yourself, and like know what needs to happen whenever something does happen. Like if you don't know what to do in a situation, you're gonna just like continue being stuck there. If you don't have a way to get out of the situation, so you're just gonna stay in the situation. But if you set up a plan beforehand, when you're actually able to like put thought into it or anything, then you're more likely to be able to get out of that situation because you're prepared. Why is this car just watching me? What the hell? drove by super slow and he was watching me. What the hell? But yeah, being prepared is super important, because obviously you're always not in the perfect mind space with depression, but whenever you're like super like cognitive and being like thinking about yourself and being like really, you're able to form thoughts without depression being the main driver of your thoughts. That's when it becomes really possible to make a plan for yourself for whenever that's not the case. And that's what really helped me, like finding a way to deal with stuff in the event that it happened, or setting up fail safes. Like for me, dealing with all this during grade school was really helpful. Like grade school is in like high school or like required school, not secondary, like university, because like 9, 10, 11, 12 are grades as well. But having to like deal with that is really, it was honestly helpful. It was awful to live through and have no one understand what I was going through, and like kind of being seen differently. Like I know I was like whatever, but that's a story for a different day. But because I would be at school and I'd have to drive home, and instead of driving home, I would drive to the gym and go work out, so I would have something to put my own thought into and like distract from my thoughts, and like know I had to do this physical activity was really helpful, because I wouldn't have to put thought into where I was driving, and I would know every day after school, go to the gym. Every day after school, go to the gym. Every day after school, go to the gym. And once that becomes a habit, it's really easy to follow. So you just need to like stick with it for like a week, week and a half, 2 weeks, honestly, like as much as you can to make it a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it's super, super helpful for you. Man, I don't even know. I don't even think I'm tired. It's only 9:30. But just finding ways to be able to be proactive, put thought into the future and what's gonna happen, and like really, really working on yourself in that way. I guess like it's not a thing that people think of a lot, having to think of solutions for things that's going to come up that aren't happening now. It's definitely like people have different levels of thought, and planning ahead isn't like something that everyone will like immediately think of for a situation. And planning ahead is always going to be really important for you whenever you get into a situation where you can't formulate your own thoughts and you're stuck at the will of your own depression. Whenever you have a plan in place, and you like, if you can't make your own thoughts, you've already made those thoughts for you. You don't have to make any decisions when you're in that compromised state. All the decisions have been made for you. You just have to like follow them. And it's really what helped me stopping overthinking. I have a video on that, finding what's important to you, and if it's not important, you don't have to worry about it. Obviously easier said than done, but I go more in detail. And yeah, I don't know, being proactive, thinking ahead, finding ways to stop yourself from overthinking. Honestly, super difficult, but super doable as well. Dang. A lot of it for me is just like physical things. What the hell? Because you have to like put thought into it. Like you can't just like, you have to think about it and actually do it, instead of just thinking about it and getting stuck in the thought. Yeah, I don't know.